If you enjoy what you hear here today, please consider supporting me on my Patreon page. Every dollar helps, and you get to see content that you won't see here. Chapter 38. The lines have been drawn. The first Hive, several days later. Empress Immortalis stood not in the throne room, nor in the hallways of her seat of power, but atop the large structure looking down upon her dominion as the sun began to rise up into the sky. The landscape was tinted in the orange glow that heralded a new day, and yet served as a reminder for the Empress, both that her task was far from over, and how much time had passed since she had last looked upon it all. Where once the sun had moved of its own will, now it required a guardian to keep the cycle going. She was still getting to know this world, and it most certainly was getting to know her.
My Empress,
the loyal voice of Queen Twilight Sparkle spoke across the Hive mind.
Yes, I assume everything has fallen into place.
Immortalis could feel Twilight's nod of confirmation across the Hive mind.
Indeed. The bulk of our forces are still concealed, but are rapidly converging on Equestria's borders. I am en route to Ponyville as we speak, my detachment of changelings at my side. Very good. What about the others?
To answer her question, all other changelings sent confirmations of their own over the Hive mind. Like clockwork, each piece performed its assigned duty and performed in perfect unison with their brethren.
All is as it should be, Empress,
Twilight assured.
So I hear,
the Empress responded.
All changelings, hold position. Now is the time for the Herald of Equestria's End to do his work. The envoy,
Twilight recalled. On the Empress's word, every drone and queen alike instantly did as they were told, and stopped their steady advance on the borders of Equestria. Likewise, a single drone split itself off from the swarm, and bolted in the direction of Kentrelot without the careful approach the main body of the swarm had been taking. This drone was not interested in stealth, only in delivering the message the Empress had dictated of him. Back at the Hive, the Empress took in a deep breath of fresh air and exhaled slowly, letting her mind briefly submerge itself among all her gathered subjects. Soon they would know Equestria's answer, and either way, the changelings would soon have the entirety of the country within their grasp. Whether by force or not remained to be seen, but it was by far the more likely option. She knew much about the alicorns thanks to her favorite pet's memories, and she knew they were as stubborn as they came in the face of direct opposition. But it was only natural for lesser creatures to resist the oncoming storm. It was in their most primal instincts. But they would learn, much how the zebras and griffins of old had done. They did not remember, that time being lost to an era of which all knowledge had since been lost. But they soon would. And Equestria is where it would all begin.
It is done,
Twilight informed over the Hive mind.
And now, we wait for the result.
Immortalis hummed, and decided to perform a little test.
Ponyville was your home for a long time, and yet you have no qualms about what is to come. No, Empress. Even when you watch the life drain from the eyes of your former allies, and know you are the cause.
There was a flicker, deep in Twilight's soul, but nothing that could breach the powerful magic suppressing her. The Empress couldn't help but roll her eyes. Twilight's futile flailing was getting boring. No matter how much Twilight Sparkle hated it, she now lived solely for the betterment of the changeling race.
No, Empress. I am pleased to hear that. And and I hope it stays that way. I will be watching you very closely, Sparkle. I hope what you see continues to please you, my Empress.
Canterlot. The sun was now high in the sky. Many ponies around the capital city were undoubtedly preparing lunch for themselves and their families. And the same was true for the changelings within the city. And they had to admit that being confined to the castle did have its advantages. Having meals prepared by the castle's resident chefs was one such example. Princess Celestia really should have also been filling that empty hole within her growling stomach, but she still had too many reports to look over. Confirmation of naval redeployments, logs forwarded from the captains of various EUP zeppelins patrolling the borders, and other such documentation. At least she had been mentally prepared for the aggravating increase in paperwork, having expected such after the conclusion of the last meeting in the war room. Still, her constant distractions didn't help her much. A dark shadow seemed to press in one corner of her mind, and no matter how much she tried to push it aside, she couldn't force herself to forget the cause of her unrest. The changeling at the center of it all. One held so dear, and yet maybe faced in battle of no will of her own. Celestia huffed, rubbing her weary eyes as those very distractions came to mind once more. After composing herself for a moment or so, she took another look over the piles of paper that were gathering on her desk. Deciding that she needed a break, and that working on an empty stomach would only compound the issue, she decided to leave the work be for a while and head to the castle's main dining room. Perhaps she could get Raven to fill in for her. Her assistant was always ready and waiting to help, but then again, she did have her own duties to perform. It wouldn't be fair to pawn hers off on some pony else.
We do so much for them. Don't they owe us such a simple thing at the very least?
Celestia shook her head. She was their princess. She served them, not the other way around. It was the promise of the crown, the one they had made when they swore to defeat Discord and take the equestrian throne.
Promise of the crown? How long will we let that get in the way of our duty to our family? First Luna, now Twilight, how long will we let our duty bring harm to those we love?
Celestia stamped a hoof, hissing under her breath.
Silence. I couldn't help Twilight, but I will bring her back. I will. Sister, are you talking to yourself?
Luna asked, staring at the Elder Alicorn from down the hallway. Celestia was brought back to reality, a slight blush on her face.
No, just ruminating on some things. Well, ruminate after lunch. You've been cooped up with that paperwork for too many hours now,
Luna remarked.
I was just on my way to collect you before you lost track of time.
Celestia quickly replaced her regal mask, composing herself once more as she nodded in agreement with her sister. So, wordlessly, they fell into step with one another and headed in the direction of the dining room. On the way, they passed by the usual guards and servants, combined now with all of the remaining changelings in Canterlot walking the non-restricted parts of the castle. It was clear that they weren't entirely happy to be cooped up inside, but they were understanding as to the reasons. None exactly wanted to end up as the brainwashed slaves of an insane dictator from several thousand years ago. They were nearly upon the dining room when Luna decided to break the silence domineering over the two sisters.
So, I assume the paperwork is nearing completion?
Celestia scoffed.
I wish. War is a terrible time of bloodshed and strife. But the paperwork is its own unique form of evil. I'd choose it over the bloodshed any day,
Luna retorted.
As would I, but I enjoy neither.
Silence began to creep on them again, neither really knowing what to say to the other.
Sister?
Luna looked up at her sibling.
When your darkness began to creep up on you, and the pain became too much to bear, what exactly was that like?
Luna's eyes widened.
And pray tell, why are you asking me about Nightmare Moon? We've talked extensively about the reasons, and our respective faults in the matter. I know you felt terrible pain, but you never told me about, well, the symptoms. Symptoms?
Luna asked cautiously, recalling Celestia's erratic behavior ever since Twilight had succumbed.
Like a twisted version of your own voice, whispering in your ear?
Celestia flinched, and Luna gave a sigh as she also recalled how she had encountered Celestia in the hallway.
You're worried about Daybreaker, aren't you?
Celestia gave her sister a curious look.
You mentioned her before, and yet never told me how you knew that name. Your dreams are quite revealing. They always have been.
Luna replied, both of them still in an otherwise empty hallway.
Your nightmares have been filled with her since my return, and I would guess they have been since my own turn. I must ask, how close was she to reality 1,000 years ago? After I banished you?
Celestia couldn't quite meet her sister's eye.
Too close. You were everything to me, even if I failed to tell you that. This crown didn't seem worth it after what happened to you. Nothing did for quite some time. Only the promise of your eventual return kept me grounded for those first few terrible years. I'm sorry for putting you through so much. You were stuck on a barren space rock. You have nothing to apologize for,
Celestia rebuffed.
At least you admitted to your own inner demons. It's more than I ever did,
Luna stated.
Well, either way, just know that my fall remains my greatest regret. And you do have people to talk to. You are far from alone. Loneliness is why you fell,
Celestia noted.
But Daybreaker is not Nightmare Moon. Their reasons for being are very different, and current events may be too much for me to bear.
Luna gave her sister a loving nuzzle, one to let her know that everything would be all right.
You will not fall. I fully believe that. This situation shall be resolved. Twilight Sparkle will come home, and your family will remain intact and by your side. All of us. And if you do fall, a nice trip to the sun is always an option.
Celestia chuckled.
Let's avoid that.
For a brief moment, Celestia's spirit managed to rise just a little. But of course it would then come crashing back down. Your Highnesses! A guard suddenly materialized in front of the alicorns, neither having seen him approach. There's a changeling! He has those red eyes we're meant to watch out for, and he's asking for you! Celestia frowned.
There's one here? In the city?
A patrol captured him just outside, but he claims to have a message for you from Empress Immortalis. Luna hummed.
Immortalis. And so our little Empress finally has a name. Bring this changeling to the throne room,
Celestia commanded.
Sister, will you join me for this? I wouldn't miss it, she replied.
Celestia sat atop her red velvet throne, her sister standing proudly to her left. There were plenty of guards present in the room alongside them, all of them watching their visitor like a hawk as he was brought in. The changeling was shoved unceremoniously forwards, and he stood fearlessly before the two alicorns. His eyes glowed a fierce red hue, the most telltale sign of the Empress's control. I have come before you, ponies, as an envoy sent by the esteemed Empress Immortalis, the envoy announced. Here I am her eyes and voice. Every word I dictate has been commanded by the Empress herself.
Can't she let you choose your own words?
Luna inquired with a hint of disgust. The drone's head tilted slightly as he heard something no others could, and only then responded. No. The Empress's word is the law of the changelings, and you will bear witness to it.
Then in essence, we are talking to the Empress through you, Celestia noted. Then I will tell her one simple thing. Release this changeling and all others, immediately.
Twilight Sparkle serves us now, the drone remarked, blatantly trying to get under the princess's skin. Your begging will not change that. Luna glanced at her sister with a little bit of worry, but it proved unfounded as Celestia's composure never even cracked. Perhaps their talk earlier had had an effect?
Why are you here?
Celestia asked, getting straight to the point.
Why send you? She must know you are not returning to her.
I am but one drone, insignificant to the whole.
No one life is insignificant.
I am a drone. It is my place in the natural order of the world.
Natural order? I don't think your Empress truly understands the concept.
We changelings say the same thing about your ponies. The changeling shot back. Twilight Sparkle's memories are quite telling. They have shown us much.
Her memories?
Nothing is out of bounds for the Empress. Everything about the Changeling Queen now belongs to her.
You violated her?
It's not a violation. It's simply natural.
I don't think she agrees. Not within the truest parts of her soul.
Celestia shot back.
She is stronger than you believe.
The Empress knows everything about her and has taken precautions. Your elements of harmony shall prove no threat if they cannot be utilized.
Have you come just to make threats on the Empress's behalf, or is there a reason to this action?
It is the consensus that we should offer you a chance to surrender, the envoy stated. Think of the lives that might be spared. You would all take your rightful places in the new dominion.
As slaves?
Luna questioned knowingly.
No thank you.
Even the student of the sun has joined us.
She did not join you,
Celestia rebutted.
Twilight has been suppressed and her body and mind converted into an unwilling tool of war. Even you, envoy, are just that. An unwilling slave. Your mind is no longer your own.
None of us have ever felt better, I assure you.
That's the Empress talking, not you,
Celestia noted.
I have seen brainwashing before, though not through such a method as the Hive mind. Nevertheless, you are programmed to act as she wants you to act. But without independence, you cannot reach your full potential.
She has graciously provided more than enough, the envoy retorted.
Once again, the Empress is talking.
This is your last chance. Spare the lives of your ponies and spare the lives of these poor, brainwashed changelings you seem to care so much for.
And leave them to their fate?
Celestia asked.
No. I must decline. You, Empress, have forced my hoof, and I will find you. And I will do what I must.
The drone remained silent for a few moments. And then the voice that emerged from his mouth was not his own, but one that was very much feminine and ancient. Immortalis.
So be it.
The drone tensed up, his eyes bulging in extreme pain. And then he collapsed to the floor. The princess's eyes widened, several guards rushing to the side of the changeling and checking his pulse. After a few moments, they looked back to the alicorns and gave their report. He's dead. Luna scowled, completely appalled.
She killed him rather than let him be captured. Perhaps she's afraid we might have found a way to break their Hive connection safely had he remained alive.
Celestia noted.
This is worrying. Any changelings that are injured or captured might very well be terminated in such a manner. So much innocent blood is on our hooves,
Luna growled.
It's unforgivable. Let us hope this incident was just to make a scene,
Celestia responded.
We'd best prepare. The lines have been drawn, and the time is now upon us.